G'day ladies and gents, welcome to War Thunder with Mags, and today we have something a little bit special for you. Now, for those of you who have been paying attention to the channel, last night I passed 27,000 subscribers. There's not going to be any big competition or any real event for it. I'm going to hold off on that till we hit 30k. But I figured now would be a time to start something that you guys have been requesting from this channel for a very, very, very long time. There are currently 284 videos uploaded to my channel that I've made over the last 2 years. And in all that time, and in all those videos, never once have I made a video focusing entirely on somebody else's battle. I've focused on somebody else's gameplay within a match, but I've always been in the match. Well, that changes today. For today's video, I'm not the pilot, hell, I'm not even in the match. Today we're riding along with fellow YouTuber Oxide and his F8F-1b Bearcat. Now this battle of course is recorded entirely from the replay system, so it is going to be handled slightly differently to how my normal gameplay videos would be recorded. And yes, this does mean you will have the opportunity to send in your own replays from this point on. At the end of the video and in the video description you will find an email address of which you will be able to send emails to, including the details of the battle, number of kills achieved, exactly where the battle was, what you were flying, and of course the copy of the replay file itself. So when Oxide first sent me through this battle, he wanted me to just take a look at the replay because, well, this battle's a bit of a unicorn. I actually haven't seen teams fly like this in a long time. If you break down the tactics of War Thunder and the way people play, there is really only two ways that players will operate within War Thunder. There's tactically and reactively. Tactical players tend to position themselves high, they try and get themselves into an optimal position for combat, they try and anticipate where the enemy is going to be. Reactive players simply fly into the battle and engage whatever they see without thinking too far ahead. Now pretty much every single battle of War Thunder you have ever played, both teams are a mix of both types of player. You tend to find more reactive players in arcade, you tend to find more tactical players in realistic, but this isn't always the case. What is incredibly rare, however, is to run into a match where both teams all consist of one type of player. This match, both teams seem to exclusively contain reactive players, and Oxide himself is flying very reactively this round. Now the whole time we've been talking, Oxide has been in a dive from around 10,000 feet heading directly towards the enemy runway. What's actually happened is very early on in the match, the enemy team's Arado bombed out a ground target and Oxide spotted its dot and saw it turn and return to base for a second bomb load. He's moving in to intercept the bomber on the runway. Now it did appear that the Arado was trailing smoke. It looked like it had taken damage from AAA when it did its bombing pass. That's what made it easy to spot for Oxide. He's currently moving in as fast as he possibly can. He's going to try and come up on the runway as flat as he possibly can to avoid AAA fire and try and spike the Arado on the ground. 770 kilometers an hour, we are now down below 600 feet, almost below 500 feet, really scraping the tops of the trees closing in on this runway. Oxide is trying to keep it as low as he absolutely possibly can. He doesn't want the Arado to see his approach, but just as he clears the mountain on this side, the Arado jays out. Now, this was a moment of double fail for both Oxide and the Arado. The Arado didn't let the repair complete before he jayed out, and as a result, he's now considered dead and out of the match. On the other hand, Oxide took a hit from AAA on the way through that almost destroyed his aircraft and has done critical damage across multiple surfaces, severely hampering his ability to fight. Now this damage does include engine damage. You can't see it on screen at the moment, but the temperatures on Oxide's engine and his oil temperatures are already climbing. At this point, he knows if he tries to climb out to altitude in the F8F, the stress of climbing is probably going to cause his engines to overheat. The best thing he can do at this point is keep the airspeed at over 500 and just keep as low as he possibly can to the ground and head back towards his own runway. If he happens to run across some enemy fighters he can take out on the way through, so be it, but he needs to keep this thing fast at the moment. If he slows down, the engine temperatures are instantly going to spike and his engine is going to die before he can make it home. Now what you're seeing right here is part of the reason why I stay the hell away from the runways unless I absolutely have to. Ooh, that was a nice slow pass through the trees. Now, there is actually another reason why Oxide is staying incredibly low, and it's down to detection range. For those of you who understand how the spotting mechanics in War Thunder work, the lower you are to the ground, the shorter the detection range or the red box around your aircraft is in RP game mode. This mechanic was installed in so that low-flying ground attackers could actually stay low enough and have a chance to move on ground targets without being spotted by high-altitude fighters. Before this mechanic was put in, it was actually possible to see aircraft scraping the treetops from about 15,000 feet. Now, aircraft or fighters need to be usually within about 5,000 feet of the aircraft that is scraping the treetops in order to be able to get a red box and therefore spot them. Otherwise, they've got to play spot the dot like you're in simulation. Now, under what would be considered normal matchmaking conditions for War Thunder, when you wind up with a team where there's a mix of tactical and reactive players on both teams, you'll tend to find flying like this to try and get home is actually a very good idea. These low altitude flights are very unlikely to encounter anything except, maybe some low flying ground attackers, as most of the fights will be happening at about 10,000 feet. But as you can see, that wasn't the case with this battle. Everybody's on the deck. The German 109s and 190s are turn fighting at about 500 feet against Bearcats and Spitfires. Now, despite the critical damage and the rapidly failing engine, Oxide managed to blindside a BF-109K4 in a turn and take it out, taking his first kill of the match. Zips around and manages to get a critical strike on a second K4 and narrowly manages to avoid getting boomed by a 190. Thankfully, the 190 went for the Spitfire off his right wing. The Spitfire was eliminated. Oxide brings it back around on the 109K that he critical struck a moment ago. He's a little wild on the trigger here, but he skewers his second kill. Second BF-109K4 eliminated. Begins a bank around to the left as he knows there is a 190 approaching in on his location. Now, that is a Focke-Wulf 190 D9, incredibly powerful aircraft, but it does seem to be focusing on the Spitfire first. Misses the pass on the Spitfire, goes to boom out of the area. Oxide has the throttles open wide up in pursuit. Starts opening up with the guns at 700 meters. It's a long range shot, but he gets a connection. He lights a D9 on fire, and why that isn't a secured kill yet, that will be his third kill. At this point, Oxide does take a moment to breathe before he realises there is another aircraft coming in behind. He's got another Focke-Wulf 190 D9 that is moving in, and it too is engaging the Spitfire first. Again, Oxide takes some leading shots. This 190, however, has more energy than Oxide does and begins to open up a gap. Oxide, on the other hand, his engine is starting to lose horsepower due to that engine damage. It's starting to get to the point where failures will be commencing very soon. Again, he shoots wildly with the guns to try and take the D9 out. Wasn't giving quite enough lead and all the shots fell short. Now, at this point, the long uncontrolled bursts on the guns has actually caused one of his 20mm cannons to jam up. So he's now down to 3 guns only and he's beginning to run very short on ammunition. However, in terms of numbers, Oxide's team is doing much better here. The Allies currently have 5 aircraft in the air, the Germans only have 2, and the second one has just arrived, a TA-152 fighting at low altitude, beginning to engage, again, the Spitfire. And the TA-152 manages to take him out. I don't know what the hell that Spitfire did, but just about every German aircraft made a pass at it, despite the fact that Oxide was there with 3 kills under his belt. Now, with the Spitfire eliminated, the Focke-Wulf 190 D9 brings it around to go head-to-head against Oxide and loses the head-on. The 190 gets slammed by a long burst of 20mm cannon rounds. Unfortunately for Oxide, that's jammed up another 2 of his guns. He's now down to 1 gun and almost no ammunition. The TA-152 is still engaging. Now, while he does still have planes on his team, none of them appear to be approaching at this point. Now, this of course leaves Oxide with 1 gun, no ammunition, and an engine and oil temperature that is currently redlined with timers operating. The TA-152 brings it around, moving in for a head-on. Oxide raises it up to try and take a shot, and we have a collision. Oxide's Bearcat takes critical damage, its left wing is black, its fuselage is black, its tail is black. Critical damage across the entirety of the aircraft. However, the TA-152, who ironically was using the rammer title at the time of this battle, shears off his own wing in the impact and slams into the ground. Unfortunately, while Oxide did fire the last few rounds he had remaining in the last gun against that TA-152, and they did impact, they didn't cause enough damage in order for him to secure that kill, so he has to pull out of this one with 4 kills only. Still not a bad round in the F8F-1b. And a round of applause to Oxide for a great demonstration of reactive gameplay, or flying by the seat of your pants. And thank you very much for the replay. Links, of course, to Oxide's channel in the video description below. So, if you have a match you want to send through to me, on screen right now will be a copy of the email address you can send the replays to. In the video description for this match, you will find a set of instructions for sending these replays through. What information I will need from you in the clip for it to be eligible. Now, I make no guarantees that your replay will be covered on the channel, but when I do make a selection to cover somebody's replay, it will be based on the information that you send me in the email that I read before viewing the replay. So make sure you have everything in there. It'll increase your chances of getting picked when I go to pick somebody to cover. Anyways, ladies and gents, I hope you enjoyed the video. Click like if you do, subscribe if you want to see more. Fly smart, fly safe, and I'll catch you in the skies.